Hi everyone, I'm Miss Schulte. For those of you who don't know me, I teach second grade at Windsor. When we were at school, we were just finishing up our weather unit and getting ready to talk about the water cycle. So I thought something cool for us to do today would be to show you how you can observe the water cycle right from your own window. Before I get into the experiment, I'd like to talk a little bit about what the water cycle is. You may have heard the word cycle before in science, talking about plant and animal life cycles. A cycle means something that goes through the same steps over and over again and keeps repeating. Well, water does that too. There's only so much water on the earth, and when you see it rain or snow, that is the same water that you have seen in rivers and lakes and oceans. It's the same water just traveling through the water cycle. If you take a look at my computer here, there's a little bit of an animation that shows what happens. Down here we have the water that you see. There's also water on Earth that we don't see. It's under the ground. We call that groundwater. What happens is the sun is the power behind the water cycle. The sun heats up the water and then it turns it into a gas, and that is called evaporation. The water rises up into the sky and as a gas, and then when it gets cold enough, it condenses, which we call condensation, and that's how it forms clouds. It keeps doing this and doing this until the clouds become too heavy, and then what do you think happens? Then it rains, and we call that precipitation. Well, it's not always just rain. Sometimes it can be snow, sometimes it can be sleet, sometimes it can be hail. And then what happens is the water from the clouds, the precipitation, comes down and runs off and either goes into our rivers, lakes, streams, oceans, or into the ground, and the process starts all over again. So I thought that I would show you a cool way to observe that from your own window with just a couple things that you probably have around your house. You're going to need a sandwich-sized Ziploc bag. Make sure it's the one that zips closed. You're going to need a permanent marker like a Sharpie. It needs to be permanent so it doesn't wash off your bag. You're going to need a little bit of water, just regular old water, and some tape. Now, an optional thing is to have some food coloring. It's not necessary, but it makes it easier to see the water that we're going to use for our experiment. So what you're going to do on your bag is you're going to draw the sun, which is very important because the sun is what powers our water cycle, and some clouds or a cloud. Now the rest of it is optional. You can make a little line down here for the collection where the water is. You don't have to. You could also even put the labels and draw the arrows like our diagram on my computer had. But this is just a very basic thing that you can do. I'm going to add a couple drops of blue food coloring to my water. Like I said, that's optional. If you have it, you can do it. If you don't have to. Just 2 drops there, just so I can see my water a little bit easier. And I'm going to swish it around so it turns nice and blue. Now, this part you might need help from a brother or sister or an adult. You need to have the bag open, and I'm going to use this cup to make it a little easier, and you're going to pour your water in. You don't need very much water because you don't want your bag to be too heavy. So once it's in, I'm going to seal up my bag. I'm going to make sure that it doesn't have a lot of air in it, and I'm going to seal it up. And I want to go over it and make sure it's closed. You might want to have an adult check to make sure that it's closed. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tape and I'm going to put a couple pieces of tape either on the corners or in the middle. You want to make sure you have enough tape so it doesn't fall down. So I put some in my corners, some in the middle. Then I'm going to walk over to the window. You want to pick a window that gets a lot of sun because, like I said, the water cycle is powered by the sun. And then I'm just going to leave it here. It's going to take a little bit of patience. On a nice sunny day like today, you could come back in a few hours and you might see the water cycle has taken place. If it's a cloudy day, it might take a little bit longer. So what you should do is you should be like a scientist and you should make an observation before you leave this alone for a couple hours. One way to do that would be to draw what you see. I'd expect my second graders to draw and maybe write a couple sentences about what they see right now. If you have access to a device that has a camera, you could even take a picture to document what you see. and then leave it alone for a couple hours. Maybe you can do some things to learn more about the water cycle, read a book, go play outside on such a nice day, and then come back and see what's happened. What you should see happening is the water here that's in the collection phase is going to get heated up by the sun, and it's going to start to evaporate. You're going to see drops going up in evaporation. Now, what it'll want to do is it'll want to escape at the top, but since it's sealed up to make clouds and condense, so that's not going to happen in our bed. When it gets too heavy and gets to the top, they're going to start coming down as precipitation and going back into collection, and it'll keep repeating. So when you come back in a couple hours, compare your first observation to your second and see what's changed. You can do this a couple times and see what has changed. A lot of the resources that I would use to teach about the water cycle at school are available to you at home as well. Some great ones I would recommend if you're interested in learning more about the water cycle is to go on BrainPop Junior. There's a great video and activities that go along with the water cycle on that website. For movement activities, Go Noodle has a video by Blazer Fresh on the water cycle. That's a lot of fun. And if you have access to Netflix, the Magic School Bus has a great episode on the water cycle as well. I hope you've enjoyed learning about the water cycle with me. Please stay healthy, stay safe, and I hope to see you all soon. Bye.